Now why for this life, oh, now so palava. I tire for this problem, I tire for life, oh. Guinea, no work, no food, no house, no light. This small water, then they bring now so dirty, they pull am. This small money, I they get now so transport, they chop am. Abba, school low, na headache, hospital, no work. I tire for life, oh. My brother, waiting you they think, oh. My sister, help don't come. SDP, MKO, Kingibe, action. MKO, Kingibe, SDP, progress. Abiola na the hope, oh, SDP na the party to solve our problem and better our life, oh. MKO, 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 action. Abiola, 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 progress. Now him be the hope, oh, for better tomorrow.
Nostalgic, right? Interesting. Well, welcome to the agenda today on Dominion Brokers Group. Today is June 12. I am Chike Ubogu. You listened to that song, right? You watched it. Familiar, right? But if you're less than 30 years, it won't resonate. Even when you're 35, it won't resonate. But when you're 40 and above, it sure does. That song in 1993. Today is June 12, and it's a day to remember in the annals of the Nigerian polity. June 12 carries huge significance for older Nigerians. It was on this date in 1993 that presidential elections were held for the first time since the 1983 military coup. It was an event many observers have described as the most significant in Nigeria's post-independence political history. It is still viewed as the freest, fairest, and most peaceful election ever held in Nigeria. On that day, an estimated 14 million Nigerians, irrespective of ethnic, religious, class, and regional affiliations, especially in the period when religious acrimony and tension had reached its zenith, defied bad weather to elect their president with the hope of ending 8 years of military dictatorship. The euphoria was short-lived. The results of the elections were never released. But unofficial results gathered through the various polling stations by civil society groups across the country indicated broad national support for the presidential candidate of the Social Democratic Party, Chief Moshood Kashimawo Olawale Abiola. Let's get to listen to that campaign song in 1993 for the SDP. Meanwhile,
now why for this life, oh, now so palava. I tire for this problem, I tire for life, oh. Guinea, no work, no food, no house, no light. This small water, then they bring now so dirty, they pull am. This small money, I they get now so transport, they chop am. MKO is our man, oh. MKO is our man, oh. Now him go make our country better. He's the man, oh. For progress and a better tomorrow. He's our man. Make you vote for him, my brother. I say make you vote for him, my sister. He's our man. Everybody make march again. On the march again. SDP the people's choice. On the march again. MKO is the man.
All right. You listen to that campaign song. Since 1993, we've not had a campaign song that resonates in the hearts of Nigerians across regional and ethnic lines. Some people, however, believe that the military underrated Abiola's popularity. It also did not envisage the level of crisis after the annulment of the election results. All right, to join me this morning to discuss June 12. Well, so many untold stories. Well, Prof here, I have Professor Soji Adejimo. He's a professor of animal physiology and also a politician. He was the candidate of the SDP in 1992, a candidate for Oyo South. But something happened that morning at the Olubadan Stadium. His candidacy was withdrawn for Senator Rashid Ladoja. He might tell us that story this morning. I also have in the studio the spokesman for Afenifere, Mr. Jare Ajayi is here in the studio. Prof, good morning. It's good to have you here again.
Yeah, good morning, Chike. I'm happy to be here and happy to be alive to still reminisce, about June 12th.
Yeah, Mr. Jare Ajayi is also here in the studio. Good morning. It's good to have you here.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure being here.
All right, let me start with you, Prof. I know many people don't know why your candidacy was withdrawn from you that early morning prior to the June 12 election. That was in 1992 when that morning somebody said in Yoruba, don't worry, your turn will come. Let our son do it. I remember those words. But if I'm wrong, and if you want the public to know, tell us the first-hand information about that. Let's start from there.
Yeah, well, to start with, my candidacy wasn't withdrawn. We went for the primaries. We went for the election.
At the Olubadan Stadium.
Stadium. It was that a lot of the delegates were not allowed in, because they knew that if they came in and voted, I would win. The combination of, may their souls rest in peace, combination of late Baba, Chief Lamidi Adedibu,
okay,
and the late governor, Chief Kolapo Ishola, found themselves in, let me say, in a terrible situation where they knew that they had to, bite the bullet, and succumb to some other, sentiments, and decided that they would not allow me, to win the primaries because they knew I was going to win it. And it's a story that I have said also on a few platforms. It's not everything that we can say out that we can reveal. But the long and short was almost like your intro. Chief Adedibu and Chief Kolapo Ishola totally underestimated my popularity. They totally underestimated.
Did that break you
the
from
work?
There?
No, it didn't break me. It didn't break me.
Okay.
In politics, you don't allow things like that to break you. In fact, it strengthened me. And it showed me that there are many other ways where you can render service. So once you have it in you, to render service, and I had other opportunities, so that is now history.
History.
Yes.
Well, we're still talking history here. You were a major part of the June 12
Yes.
activity,
Yes.
especially from the JOS convention. What really happened in JOS? How did you get back to Lagos? What happened on your way to Lagos?
You see, the JOS convention was an iconic convention, and I think the JOS convention actually displayed democracy at its very, very best. It was, I would say, the height of democratic politicking. And what happened by the annulment on June 12 practically buried democracy in Nigeria. Democracy suffered a stillbirth. And up till now, we still haven't been able to resurrect the kind of democracy that we would have had if that annulment had not happened. So I'll keep saying that what we are having now in Nigeria is the corpse, is the body of a slain, a slaughtered democracy. Democracy has been buried in Nigeria. We are just trying to exhume it. But what we are exhuming is not a live, it's not a resurrection like
Are
the
you saying
resurrection of Jesus.
we're trying to exhume an expired carcass?
Something like that.
Okay.
And it's not like the resurrection of Jesus, where a dead came to life. It is dead, a rotting carcass being tried to
So if it is dead, why then are we
sterilized.
singing the song of renewed hope?
I say that democracy was buried. And people are just hoping that one day, true democracy will resurrect. But I doubt it.
Okay, Prof, let's get back. I asked a question. The JOS convention.
Yes.
Yes.
The JOS convention was when we had clearly the cards on the table. We had three candidates. We had Abiola, we had
Atiku Abubakar.
Abubakar, and we had Kingibe. And we realized that if we didn't play these cards well, Kingibe might win, not Atiku. And Kingibe was quite strong. He had just left office as the national chairman
Of the SDP.
Yes, of the SDP. And he had 14 governors, in the SDP bag. Out of the 14 governors, I could say about 12 were with him, because I remember that I was sent ahead of June 12 by Chibade Dibu to go and arrange accommodation for the Oyo State delegates. And because of my relationship with the former governor of Plateau State, Fidelis Tapgan, I was able to shift. They knew that Oyo State will be for Abiola. Therefore, they had already taken us so far away to an area where we might not even be easily reached by anybody, and where we could not even influence things. So I was able to change the accommodation arrangement for a much better one. And when I was coming back to Ibadan, I missed my flight, and suddenly I saw Kingibe coming. No, it wasn't Kingibe. The governor now came to the airport.
That's Tapgun.
Tapgun, yes. He came to the airport with some SDP chieftains. And they said they were waiting for an aircraft that was coming from, I think, Kanye or somewhere, and from Maiduguri. And the aircraft will be going to Lagos. So I said, okay, I will join them. And they said, yes, I could join that flight. It was a private flight. So when the aircraft landed, and I and Tapgun went on board, I found 11 governors in that aircraft with Kingibe. And that was 2 weeks to the primaries. 11 governors.
Was there any
Well, yeah.
discussion
You know-
on that aircraft that you eavesdropped on?
Yes. No, I won't still reveal that.
but please,
I'll be-
well, it's history.
I'll be
It's
exact.
history.
No.
Well,
No,
do
I'll
you
be
have
exact.
anything to lose if you reveal that?
No, I wouldn't, because the actors.
But can I help
the
you?
actors are still alive.
Can I help you?
But as soon as I arrived Lagos,
Yeah.
I went straight to Ibadan and I went to Jifade Dibu and I said, Baba, if we don't take some
Drastic
steps,
Something will
we
happen
will lose.
before next week.
Yes, because this is what happened
On
that
the flight.
Yes.
Can I help you out?
I would say.
But you said some of the actors are still alive.
Yes, and I have to rest.
Was there a plot?
Yeah, of course there was.
There was a plot
Yes,
to eliminate one person.
I won't go into that.
But there was a plot to eliminate one person.
Chike, I will not go into that.
Mr. Jare
Anything that
Ajayi.
can set, is that can put fire into to what we have. It is not. It's happened. We remember that's a long time ago.
Yes, about
And
33 years.
Yes, and I was not on the manifest
Yes.
for that flight.
You were just given a lift.
I was just given a lift, courtesy of Fidelis Staff Gun. And then, of course, because King Gibeon knew me very well, most of those governors knew me.
They trusted you.
They trusted me.
That's why they could say
Yes.
those things there.
And none of them has come out to reveal what happened. But the only thing was, I went to Jifade Dibu and I called him. I said, Baba, we have problem. And I thank God, we were able to
surmount that
to
problem.
surmount that.
And one of those people that helped in quelling that problem was Chief Bimbola Boderi. I just learned recently that he's late.
No, that is Abimbola Davis.
Aboderi. Chief Aboderi. Yes.
Abode-
MQ
Aboderi is
Abiola's
of
friend.
course.
Yeah, so I learned, I wanted to have him on this program today.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I was told that Chief Abimbola Boderi has joined our illustrious ancestors. May he so rest in peace.
Amen.
All right, Mr. Jare Ajayi, June 12. Well, Professor Soja Dejumo is giving us some historical background. We're still coming there. And then what led to Abiola declaring himself president at Ekpetedo? Was he influenced by a certain chief at Dedibu to declare himself as president? Or was it a trap? We're coming there. Mr. Jare Ajayi, now, you are the spokesperson for Afenifere. Since what happened in 1993 happened, has Afenifere remained the same? What is Afenifere doing to keep the legacy of Chief MK Abiola and, get the Southwest together again?
Yeah, thank you very much for that question. Yeah, we'll seize this opportunity once again to congratulate Nigerians on this occasion of Democracy Day, because that is what it is. Courtesy, and we use the opportunity to also thank former President Muhammadu Buhari for not only recognizing June 12, 1993 election and honoring the winner of that election, Chief MK Abiola, and some other heroes. And of course, that's the legacy. Now, to the question. We in Afenifere, that June 12, 1993 was a momentous event for us. And the legacy is worth keeping up, which was part of the reason why we fully supported Asiwaju Ahmed Bola Tinubu in the 2023 election. Why? Apart from the fact that he was one of us, he still is, but now, of course, he's the president of Nigeria, so we cannot be arrogating him to ourselves alone. Everybody knows how much he was with late Chief MK Abiola before the election, during the election, and after the election. Even he suffered some, personal, this has refilled when former Vice President Professor Yemi Osinbajo was reviewing the book by
IBB.
Yeah, exactly, former President Ibrahim Babangida. Now, we felt that considering the nearness, the closeness of Asiwaju Bola Tinubu to late Chief MK Abiola, who came up with this Hope 93, the manifesto, I'm happy, or do I use the word happy? I was fascinated by one remark you made, Chike, in the introduction, that after they played the campaign slogan of SDP, that since that time, it's difficult to really say that we have a campaign this thing of that nature,
yes,
resonating since then. That also is to tell us the nature of political party activities in those periods and now, ever since. I mean, we have our political activities built around individuals now rather than political parties. And that's part of the problem that we really need to face, even as we reminisce over 1993 election, the June 12th, the Democracy Day that we are celebrating today. And as for what what we are doing, yes, we supported Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, not necessarily the party. I want to make that clear, because we saw in him the possibility of reenacting what Chief M.K. Abiola stood for. To restore Nigeria to path of progress. It's still our hope. And we are also happy when he came up with the slogan, renewed hope, meaning that he's linking himself, linking his manifesto, linking his party's intention to what Chief M.K. Abiola under SDP at that time stood for. So we are still on that, and we are very hopeful and to some extent confident that that aspiration will still be met.
Did democracy die after the annulment of June 12, 1993?
There's no doubt whatsoever, yes, that it did.
Are you in consonance with Prof saying that democracy is dead?
Oh, well, I would differ a little. Okay. Democracy was in comatose. It was seriously wounded. Seriously wounded.
It was?
It was, yes, it was seriously wounded.
What's happening now?
Yes, but the fact that we are making this effort means that we still have to hope that it can be revived. So he used the word exhumation, that it was being exhumed. Yes.
Well, how do you exhume a corpse that is no longer living? The corpse would have expired. It has become carcass.
Yeah, that's why I say I differ a little. You know, I say was severely wounded.
Severely wounded.
Yes, so I didn't use the word
dead. As being alive but wounded.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
You know, gasping, comatose, and all that, which means it still have some life in it, and it is that little breath in it that we are trying to pump oxygen into. So, and we are very hopeful that we're very optimistic that it will come back alive.
Prof, let me come back to you. When you look at before I go into democracy itself, we're looking at history. M.K. Abiola declared himself president at Ekpetedo in 1994. Was it an individual decision? Some bookmakers have said that it was Chief Adedibu that lured him to declaring himself as president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, knowing fully well that that was a treasonable offense.
Unfortunately, we didn't have the opportunity of reading the memoirs or biography of M.K.O. Abiola, because the events that led to the Ekpetedo declaration are a little bit shrouded in some level of not secrecy, but some level of
hanky-panky
confusion.
Yeah,
I would not believe that it was the decision of an individual. I will say that at that time, Abiola was under pressure from so many quarters, and unfortunately, because that was a very vulnerable period for him, he wouldn't quite know who to trust and who not to trust, and all manners of advice, all manners of suggestions would be coming to him. And again, at that time, some people felt that Abiola was being hijacked, and others felt that they were being alienated. For instance, Kingibe made an accusation that he was kept out of the loop. But I remember that shortly after the annulment, Chief Adedibu wanted a kind of declaration, not an Ekpetedo style declaration, But like when Abiola traveled abroad, there was a time he had to travel.
Yeah.
Yadebu was encouraging him to form a government in exile.
Yes, in exile.
Yes. He said, look, form a government in exile and create a massive international problem for the Babangida administration. And unfortunately, like I said, Abiola was under all manners,
Of pressure.
Pressure. And like Jari Ajari said, actually Tinubu, I have to give him credit because he stood by Abiola, throughout. In fact, he stood by Abiola more than he stood by SDP, throughout that period. He stuck his neck out for him. And Abiola going to Ekpete though wasn't really
personal.
I wasn't expecting it, and I'm sure Chivade Dibu was not expecting it, because when he went to Ekpete though, everybody knew that the military, being what they were, especially under Abacha, they will strike, and it will be very devastating. So that Ekpete though was born out of all manners of pressures, but I can't link it to an individual.
An individual. Okay, now let's talk about our democracy now.
Yeah.
You said is dead.
Yeah.
We have a president who is telling us, keep that hope alive. Let's renew that hope we once had 32 years ago. And now Nigerians are there, still hoping. The first song I played before we started this program, I don't tire for this world, for this life, no work, no food. And so hunger with it. The song was there, and that was what led to the campaign and the acceptability of Chief Moshood Kashima or Lawale Abiola then. Today, Nigerians seem to be singing a remix of that song, even resonating more than then. Nigerians are hungry. Nigerians are not happy. Nigerians are in a poverty level, according to the statistics that we have on ground. However, we are in a democracy that has been, having its ups and downs since 1999, the Fourth Republic. Do you think we could still wriggle out of this? Do you think we could still make some sense out of this, especially with the Tinubu administration?
Oh yes. I
from a sincere point of view.
Yeah, from a sincere point of view. My brother, Jare, said he believes that democracy is still on the operating table, that it can still be surgically, brought to life. But you see, I don't go that path. You see, democracy as defined by the founders of philosophy and all of that had already spelled out the guiding principles of a democratic community. We have failed it. It's buried. But I believe that, in these days, we have all manners of things coming up. Generations, Gen Z, all manners of things. There are a lot of things that we even find now in the Oxford Dictionary that were not there 50 years ago. Yeah. So, democracy now can be customized.
Okay.
So what we have now is like Nigeria democracy. In fact, I would say that we had all manners of peculiar democracies, not the real democracy. There was a time we had an Obasanjo democracy. It was only Obasanjo that was Mr. Democracy himself. He was the only one that was running his democracy, and he ran it the way he liked. And we found ourselves, in the boat that he was piloting according to Obasanjo's democracy. And suddenly we had a Yar'Adua democracy who was bold enough to say, look, I can't continue running Obasanjo's democracy. I think we need to sit down together, and refashion this democracy. Now,
Jonathan's
democracy came. And suddenly, we had a Buhari democracy that could not even be it defied all manners of definitions. Up to today, I'm not in a position to really say what kind of democracy that Buhari ran. Was it an autocracy? Was it a democracy?
Or was it a laissez-faire?
Was it a laissez-faire? Were we controlled by some oligarchs? You know, I wouldn't know. The only thing I just knew was that he would listen. Maybe he had some heart of compassion to listen to some quarters. Oh, and he announced June 12, you know, as a public holiday. He immortalized, I put in quote, MK Abiola, you know, and all of that. I think it was conferred GCON, you know, something like that, you know. So now we're having another democracy.
A Milocon democracy?
Yes, you know.
Is that what you're coining as?
No, I won't call it. You can call it a Milocon democracy.
What kind of democracy do you call it?
Yes, but we now have another Tinubu fashion democracy.
Okay.
So all of that is really far different from the kind of democracy that we had prior to June 12. The June 12 was pure democracy. It was not controlled absolutely by the power of money. It was not controlled by the level of thuggery that you can. Look, Abiola won in Kano. Yes, it wasn't determined by level of thuggery. It was determined by the content of our minds and our brains. If we did not exercise our mental faculties very well in Jos, at the Jos Convention, Abiola would not have won. It wasn't because of it. As a matter of fact, Kingibe's money, we even use Kingibe's money against Kingibe. I can confess that. I can confess that.
You use Kingibe's money
against
to work against Kingibe.
Against Kingibe. So it wasn't because Kingibe had money. Kingibe had the governors to himself. Kingibe had a lot of the bank big wigs to fund his campaign during the primaries. It wasn't because Abiola had, you know, all the money, but Abiola had goodwill. He had a lot of goodwill. And for once, we had, let me be frank with you, it is not easy to have the Southeast supporting a Yoruba man. There is this deep distrust there, based on a misinformation, misconception about, you know, about Awolowo.
Yes.
And they have, they have taken it into their DNA, that you see that even children that are unborn already having that DNA of their parents, you know, waiting to be passed to them, and that DNA is saying Awolowo phobia.
But I love you and I love Mr. Jare.
Yes, I'm glad. But if you then speak the truth,
Yeah.
I was in a function with the late Chief Manewanyawu, and he was honest. He said, look, Abiola never did us any harm. He said, Awolowo never did Igbos any harm. He said, how can Zik be aspiring to be Premier of the West coming from Onitsha? He said, it's not fair.
Yeah.
Will an Awolowo say he wants to go to Enugu and become Premier of the East? He said, so, and what, and we won't even go into that. But the long and short was that in Jos, the Southeast, as then, I didn't think we had the South then. The Southeast gave its vote en masse to at least 70% of the votes went to MKO.
Abiola.
We had people, I remember I was walking through the night. I didn't sleep. I went to Okadigbo. Okadigbo is late now. I went to Sergeant Awuze. He's now a traditional king in Rivers State. I went to Sergeant Awuze. I went to the leaders, you know, of the East that night, and they all fell behind Abiola, in spite of the massive support and strength, you know, and control of Kingibe. It was pure democracy, you know, at work.
Undiluted.
Undiluted.
But we got it wrong.
Yeah.
how do we get it right today? 2025, Nigerians are already talking about 2027. And I've always said, it seemed like the 2026 political calendar has been edited from the polity of the Nigerian state. Everybody is talking 2027, when we are yet to even get our acts right in 2025. How do we get it right? Despite the fact that you said, according to you, that democracy is dead. And then we're practicing customized democracy.
Yeah.
So how do we then get it right for the Nigerian people to see themselves as being part of a democracy?
I will put that responsibility, honestly, with more manners of transparency, I put the responsibility on Mr. President. If he's able, and I think he can do it, if he's able, like I told you, this is a tenable democracy.
Democracy.
If he's able to navigate 2027 with some infusing some pure elements of democratic principles into it, and that is sustained to 2031, when you will be exiting, if he has a second term,
All things being equal.
all things being equal, then there might be a stable platform that Nigeria can continue. I still wouldn't know, because Tinubu seems to have a political acumen that is peculiar, really, and working for him. I wouldn't know if another incumbent will be able to sustain that. Nigeria is a very difficult country, yes, to govern and to deal with. And that's where I believe that if there could be some bold steps towards some positive restructuring in a manner that will make the center less strong, in a manner that will give the regions some higher levels of autonomy. In a manner that will let some people know, like in our own academia, we have a mantra. We say, oh, you want to survive in academia, you want to become a professor, you want to go to the highest level of publish or perish. If you cannot work and write up the outcomes of your research, you call yourself an academic. What are you professing? If you cannot project it to the world, write it and let the world see it, and let the world, yes, acclaim it and say, oh, yes, I have Googled Professor Dio Adejumo. Oh, if you Google my name, you will see everything that I have achieved in academics. It is not hidden. Google it today, Professor Dio Adejumo, Google Scholar, and see what will come up. And people say, oh, yes, it's worthy of being a professor. It is the same thing, that we are going to be faced with, where what each region will be given opportunity to either think out of the box or decline, because that center that you believe is the money bag, if that center is restructured to let the regions fend for themselves. Self-sustenance. It may be very hard, but it will work. The economy of the state of California, for instance, then the budget of California is, as a state, is almost the same as the entire budget of the United States of America. And that is telling you something, that within their own state, they have enough resources to even run the country. So that is not, if this corruption that we have, this greed, if it is, when the regions know that, look, the money is yours. Don't go to Abuja. So let that governor go there and chop it and see if he can be able to find his way back to his house. But they say, what happens in Abuja stays in Abuja. So they don't have to report back.
Yeah.
Are you getting that?
Yes,
to constituents. But when the regions are given sufficient powers, and they are now they are in command of their own destiny.
Yes.
And the futures and fortunes of their citizens within their regions. They will sit up. They will find ways of improving agriculture. They will find ways of improving technology. They will find ways of turning their own domain into a paradise.
All right, Mr. Jare Ajayi. Well, this discussion is supposed to be, part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4. But let's just look at this. Democracy in Nigeria. You've looked at it as having hope that we could also pass through this. However, the question now is, how do we go through it? You've listened to what Prof said. Prof is postulating a proper restructuring where the regions will be autonomous, devolve the powers from the center. But what's your own angle to it?
Yeah, well, I'm glad that he mentioned it, because when he began to speak, during this his last submission, I was following it, and I'm glad that before he ran it up, he talked about restructuring. Well, at the beginning, talking about President Tinubu, possibly when he comes for the second term, things will be put in a position such that even by the 2031, if he wins the second term, things will have been put in a place such that whatever structure he put in place will endure. Well, what was going on in my mind at that time, and which is now, and has been the position of Afenifere all along, it will be difficult with the way Nigeria is at the moment, with the kind of constitution we are using presently. It will be difficult for the country to wriggle out of its present problem without restructuring the country. And that restructuring must take the form of enabling, and this is where Prof and I are on the same page, should result into the regions. It could be the present 6 geopolitical zones be turned into regions.
Into regions, as
yes, exactly. Such that each area, including, the constituents, turning Nigeria into a regional system does not necessarily mean abrogating or removing states. States can still come under each of the regions.
Those states could be provinces.
Yeah, exactly. They can become provinces as we had it pre the independence days. Anyway, so the point being made here is this. Even various times when we speak in Afenifere, we always talk that, because that is one of the main agenda that we hold presently. And Ruben Fashoranti, the leader of Afenifere, in the speech, the democracy, the speech that he gave, which was issued yesterday. And it's very much in the media today. Apart from talking about security, the need for state police, going down to the level of the community policing, restructuring is one of the major instruments we believe. In any case, all those things come under it. So the long and short of it is that restructuring should be a main focus of the present administration, and it should come before 2027 election.
Do you think this Tinubu administration will toe that line of restructuring?
To some extent, there are some policies that are already in place. There are some steps already in place being taken that are geared towards that. But to now put life into it, to make it efficacious, such that, for example, the local government autonomy, this state policing that we are talking about. But what is a little bit amazing is that the federal government came up with those things, but to some of us, maybe because we are not there, we feel that the kind of power, the kind of authority, the kind of leverage that the president and presidency has or have is not being deployed enough. If the federal government went to court, for example, the Supreme Court, and got a favorable the judgment concerning local government autonomy, it's about a year now. it has not been
After
implemented.
the judgment, the federal government says they should wait for 6 months, and it's past 6 months.
That's exactly. I'm saying by next month now, July, it will be 1 year.
1 year.
Yeah, you know, I mean, the thing on air is that many governors are always against it.
Could that just be a distraction? Is it that this judgment was gotten just to douse the tension of Nigerians and distract them again with the governors not accepting local government chairmen opening local government accounts
with the central bank? CBN. No, I don't think it's a distraction in the sense that as at the time the federal government went to court, even many people knew, it was not as if Nigerians were mounting pressure on the federal government for that purpose. I think government, in its wisdom, I mean, honestly, in this respect, I want to thank the office of the Minister of Justice and Attorney General. I mean, because I believe such that kind of thing was in the mind, and we was not surprised because Prince Lateef Fagbemi is a person who believes in that kind of thing. So the point I'm trying to make was I don't think it can be traced to to use the word distraction was not it, because it was not as if pressures were mounted on the federal government. And that was why the judgment was very popular among the people. The same thing about the state policing. Which surprisingly, many state governors still find it difficult to, agree with it. But I believe, and I think many Nigerians believe, that the federal government should do more to implement those things, and it's possible.
Okay, Prof, quickly, we've talked about, he just talked about restructuring, and you also brought it up, the issue of restructuring. However, we have so many policies of this administration that are hanging, they're not being implemented. Do you see Mr. President, while he was campaigning to become president, he said, we'll restructure the country. Do you see him as fulfilling that promise to Nigerians?
You see, it's easy before you assume an office to make promises, because you are not there, you are not seeing everything. There are certain things that will be hidden, even from you, from me, that are now open to the president. And when he's confronted with such situations, then other considerations will come in. And then that will be, wow, can we really do this? Can we really do that? You know, it takes a lot of courage to run a country like Nigeria. It takes a lot of courage to run any country. Trump has courage, even though I would say his courage is not a discussion for
today.
For today.
I'll still have you. I'll still have you on air to discuss other issues.
But he has courage. Courage says that he said, look, America first. It takes a lot of courage.
Okay.
And I will give Tinubu credit for some of these things, like Jare said.
Yeah.
Many of our past presidents lacked that, and that's why we are here today. I was a member of the 1988-89 Constituent Assembly in Abuja.
Yes.
We had a constitution, but Babangida didn't have the courage to promulgate it. There was a 2014 confab.
Yes.
Jonathan didn't have the
courage to implement
it.
Okay, we'll have more of these discussions, as it were. I'll still have to look for a way of getting you down to the studio again, Professor David Olusoji Adejumo.
Don't you care? We've been together for a long time, so I'm always available.
Do you still want to become governor?
Oh, if God says, there is nothing that God cannot.
I know you wanted to become governor in 2015. In
2015.
2015.
Yes.
Do you still want to become governor? Can you correct the maladies in the polity? Just in 10 seconds. Can you?
Absolutely, it is possible.
Okay. Yeah. So you still want to become governor?
If God wills it, there is nothing.
Thank you, Prof.
Jare can become governor. So there is nothing that God cannot.
Mr. Jare Ajayi is the spokesperson of the Afenifere. Thank you for featuring this morning, and I also wish you a happy Democracy Day.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure being
Professor Olusoji Adejumo. Thank you so much for featuring on the agenda this morning. We'll also have so many topics to discuss about.
Yes, we haven't really talked about June 12.
Yeah, we've not talked about it because you had to hide some things.
Yeah, there are some hidden things. When we talk, we'll talk about it. There are things that we can talk about freely now.
Yes.
You know, I said something to you that we use King Gibe's money against King Gibe.
Yes. That's a punchline.
You know, those are things that,
Thank you for featuring. Well, it is Democracy Day today. President Bola Ahmed Tinubu declared it. President Muhammadu Buhari declared this in 2019. And we have President Bola Ahmed Tinubu running the affairs of Nigeria. I hope Nigerians will get the dividends of democracy. Well, let's continue this discussion. You can join us on our social media platforms on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok is at Dominion Broadcast. And on the app X is at Dominion Cast. You follow us on our website at www.dominion.org.ng. My name is Chike Ubogu. Do have a great day. Stay safe and bye for now.